What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Stellar Highway. My name is Motormind. Thank you for riding with me tonight. It's New Comic Book Day, and this was a big haul day for me. Since I've gotten back into collecting, I haven't had so many books land on one day, and I couldn't even find one. If you're wondering, the book I couldn't find was Coda number 2, which I will be looking for throughout the rest of the week here. So, got a lot of miles to drive at work, a lot of ground to cover. There's a few comic book shops I could stop into, and hopefully I'll get lucky at one of those, and I'll have a look at Coda 2 later on this week. But first off, I want to keep this Darkhawk kick going by talking about Infinity Countdown Darkhawk. This is issue 2. There's a little happening in this book that is pretty cool. I like a few of the sequences here. Basically kicks off with a sort of an extended sequence where Chris says goodbye to Miranda, his fiance Miranda. She knows about Darkhawk, and the last issue they introduced sort of the dangers of using the amulet now that it's overriding Chris's body, giving him more control over to the Darkhawk by making him become Darkhawk instead of just driving Darkhawk. So, she's nervous about all this, and basically, he kind of sends her not anonymous. What's the word I'm looking for here? Sends her sort of a non-incriminating. That's it. A non-incriminating text to get her to meet, somewhere where he popped the question. It's this church, and when she arrives, he's bound by Death's Head, and he's kind of putting on an act here, so if they're being monitored, he won't put her in danger. So it's kind of a nice scene. Like I said, Miranda is a new character so far as I know, but they've done a good job of introducing her as, a likable person. I mean, she's concerned about Chris. She kind of questions his plan, because his plan is basically that old cliche, pretend to be a prisoner and then bust out and jack everybody up. Chewbacca's done it. Han and Luke have done it. She's kind of like, I think this is an insane idea, But there's a couple of cracks at Death's Head. They give Death's Head a few good lines here. But, man, there's this fantastic sequence later in the book, Well, to wrap this up, he says bye to Miranda, and Death's Head, rudely, interrupts them, basically, by teleporting him away at, the most inopportune time. So, there's a little scene where Chris and Death's Head are attacked on the ship, and there's a super cool sequence where Chris is bound up and blown out of the ship, and because of the manacles, he can't quite reach the Darkhawk amulet. But at the last second, he's able to grab it and transform. And he's basically pulled down to the surface of this planet. And he's, fighting these guys. And he's like, I thought these were pretenders. Why are they so fast? Why are they so strong? And he realizes, oh my God, these are actual raptors I'm fighting. These aren't just costume pretenders. Well, I'll skip a page or two here. But there's some revelations about the Phoenix Force and the origin of the Darkhawks. It seems like, if I'm understanding this correctly, and I think I am, give or take, they were created to be sort of like a mechanized Phoenix Force, sort of to either fight alongside the Phoenix Force or fight against it. I'm sort of blanking on the connection between the Shi'ar and the Phoenix Force. I feel like they were mortal enemies. So this is just basically what these guys are doing is, there's another revelation about, the origin of Darkhawk, because it wasn't confusing enough, convoluted enough already. But hey, I like it. I like what they've done here. I mean, there's not anything they've done since that issue 51 and the other little bits I've read that I dislike. I like all of this. And of course, this ends on sort of a cliffhanger. The main raptor, I believe his name is Geyer, he brutally rips the amulet off of the Darkhawk body and kind of leaves Chris there to die. So, But we've still got 2 issues, so I'm guessing that Chris has still got a little fight in him somehow, or, we still have some revelations, or he might get some unexpected help. It didn't reveal the fate of Death's Head so far as I could tell. It seems like maybe he was blown out of the ship, or, maybe Death's Head can come in and rescue him. Not sure, but still, liking this. This is cool, and it's got some great art. There are a few pages that I skipped because I don't want to spoil the whole shebang, but this does kind of have the first appearance of a sort of a new character, and it's got a pretty cool design, but I'll save that. I'm sure it'll be unavoidable in issue 3 to show you some of what happened here, but for now I'll save you the spoilers and you can check it out. If you're a Darkhawk fan, if you're following Infinity Countdown, I think this is solid. Of course, I do love me some Darkhawk, and I have for many, many years, so that one's really kind of, it would have had to mess up really bad for me to dislike it. So moving right along, I also grabbed Oblivion Song number 4 today. I keep saying I won't buy this book, yada yada, I hate the faces, but man, it's so compelling, the story's so interesting. Unfortunately, this isn't a very eventful issue. It's still got more fantastic environmental art and monster designs and good stuff like that. Still has some of the same jacked up faces, but it seems like, it's either like I'm getting used to it, or he's, kind of tooling with his style, because some of these supporting characters and stuff, they don't look too bad. They don't look too wonky. They don't look too, Archie-esque, I think is kind of what I said. But there's some pretty good stuff in here. Basically, the homeless guy with the shotgun, I called him the homeless Muppet, I think, a couple of weeks ago. He's accused of, he's not allowed into this colony anymore. He's accused of being a murderer. He's accused of murdering his wife and child, but he blames it on something called the Faceless Ones. And that's kind of a cool mystery thread that they just leave hanging there. But back on Earth, we have a little bit of stuff with Bridget and Duncan, I believe is her husband's name. I've had trouble with the names in some of this for some reason, but there's a bit here, Duncan is still going through he's having trouble sleeping, he's lashing out in his sleep, and it just kind of shows how jacked up their marriage really is, and how the transition from Oblivion and survival there and coming back to Earth, and Nathan has kind of a heart-to-heart with her, There's also sort of a mysterious scene that's not as mysterious as the Faceless Ones thing, but, somebody's spying on Nathan, and Nathan is going into a storage unit to work on some kind of mystery device, and it's clear that it's not working. He's getting frustrated with it, but I will skip a few pages here, just so we don't ruin the whole thing and get copyrights and good stuff like that. But Nathan, even though he's still recovering from his last trip into Oblivion, he goes back yet again. He gets totally waylaid by the group of survivors, and at the end, there's sort of a promise that he'll be led to their leader, and they let his name slip, and he's like, Ed, I'm looking for an Ed, he could be my brother, and then our mystery colonist here, her name is Maria, unless I'm mistaken, she's like, wait, you're Nathan? And he's just gives his goofy smile. Yeah, you can feel like the relief there. This was sort of a point A to point B issue with just a little bit of development, a few more mystery threads thrown out there. I liked it. I heard that issue 6 is really the end of the first arc. So really, we're about to find out more about the people who are in Oblivion who don't want to come back. So, this is kind of ramping up, even though it's been, maybe a little uneven, to my taste. Still, it's been good stuff, still worth buying. Really, you feel, when you read a book like this, you feel them fishing for the television deal or something like that. And I really do feel that when I read this, but it's still good stuff, I can't deny. I'm enjoying it. Let's see, we also picked up the new Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man issue 305. I really liked this. I liked the previous issues, and I just kind of gushed about them. This was also great, but this was very quick. This is very rushed. I mean, you can tell this could have gone three more issues, I want to say, but they kind of wrapped it up in a quick fashion, and I don't really know why that is, because there's so much potential in this storyline. At the end of the day, it does end up being a little inconsequential, a little throwaway, but I mean, hey, time travel shenanigans, alternate universes, all this stuff is just, it doesn't, a lot of things don't matter these days, and that's just par for the course, but I enjoyed this ride. I thought this was cool. There's a bit here where they're getting Doom to his time machine so he can send Jameson and Spidey and Teresa back to their own timeline. So they've as you might recall in the last issue, they've recruited or joined up with the Resistance. They've got Doctor Strange, they've got Cap, they've got Ironheart, and they're all kind of like working together to get past Osborn and get to the time machine. Peter has the Peter of the past, or the Peter of this time, who quit being Spider-Man. He kind of, gets it together and decides to help. There's some cool stuff where Gwen is taking on Dr. Octopus. I mean, of course, she has no powers, but basically there's a great scene here where she tells Norman Osborn to go to hell, and it looks like Darkhawk has got her, and there's no escape. But in swings Peter from the past, who has decided to go all in and become Spider-Man after all. And you can tell, they've seen the new, I think it's Insomniac's Spider-Man game that's coming up. The design of that game and this suit have a lot in common, if you ask me. But yeah, this is a cool suit. I like it. There's a weird anklets, but I mean, he's got these almost superior Spider-Man-esque gauntlets. He's got the white spider. For some reason, the webbing is red, which kind of surprised me, because on a previous page, he webs up a spy in the company. He webs up her phone so she can't alert Osborn, and the webbing is white. But here, suddenly, when he's in combat, when he's got these web gauntlets on, it's red. But yeah, he basically swings in. He regrets his inaction. There's some great stuff between Peter and Osborn where, he says, I always beat you, Osborn. I've beat you in every timeline so far. This isn't going to be any different. There's good stuff in here, and I really like it. I won't show too much more, but at the end of the day, Osborn does get away. We're kind of, there's hope for this sort of dystopian future that they've got. Peter even grabs the shield from Cap for a moment. He's still kind of a raging Peter. I mean, he's still pretty hot-headed, but, it's enough to kind of set him apart from the Peter we know. I mean, I wouldn't mind revisiting this timeline in the future, maybe if there's some other kind of stories. But Peter stepping up, saving Gwen Stacy, his wife, that's kind of like to help patch up their marriage, because, he's no longer shirking his responsibility that came with his great power, and so on and so forth. But I won't reveal the last page or two there, because this is worth a read. Rushed as it is, it really does feel rushed. Things happen bang, bang, bang. But still, fun ride. Enjoyed this. The art can be a little uneven. There's some scenes kind of towards the end where Peter has some weird-ass legs and stuff, but I enjoyed it. I thought that was a pretty great book. Sideways. This was, I didn't know what to expect from this. This is issue 5. I've really enjoyed Sideways so far, This has got a new creative team on it, new interior art. I believe this is the same cover art, but the interior art's quite a bit different. It is a step down, but it's still good and competent art. It does hurt losing that other guy. I'm not sure who that was, but I mean, he was dynamite. He definitely had his own style. He was definitely one of their top tier talents. But the guy they've got on this right now is not so bad. Now, looking at the cover, they've kind of done this fake news, sideways, fake hero, fake news, and there's all these sort of like Trump anti-Trump-esque type things going on in the background that they've just kind of, like this angry mob. But this is so I was worried. I was like, oh no, more politics. They found some way to inject politics into this. But luckily this cover is just kind of misleading. Basically, Derek is, he's met Tempus Fuge, a Tempus Fusionaut. This guy's name is tough. I have trouble with names like Duncan and Bridget, so I'm never going to get this guy's name right. So when we last left Derek, he was met by Tempus Fusionaut, and he was like, hey, you tried to kill me. Sorry, I've been busy. He's like, I'm giving this thing up anyways. You don't have to worry about me any longer. But basically, he says, I might have been wrong. There's some great dialogue in here still. He's like, I might have been wrong, but basically introduces Derek to this place in between places, and it shows kind of like where he's torn all these little holes in it, and he basically recruits Derek to heal these rifts. It doesn't really go into the implications of like, how often he should be rifting or how he would actually fix the rifts. But it's kind of an interesting plot thread. Later he kind of refers to himself as like, have I just been recruited as like a time cop or something? But it's an interesting idea. I mean, it feels sort of like, Green Lantern-esque, but more of a time-related scenario instead of willpower and imagination and stuff like that. I like it. I really like this book anyways, and it just keeps getting better if you ask me. I mean, this is not as strong as the Replicant issue because the villain is just sort of this guy who feeds off emotion, so he basically goes and trolls everyone, gets everyone worked up, and he's at a high school with a bunch of like angry teenagers, and he just whips up this mob. He calls out Sideways. He knows Sideways goes to that school because of Sideways' YouTube video, and he's just trying to call out Sideways, and he's empowering himself by all like the negativity and stuff that's coming from the teenagers. So he's not as cool as the Replicant guy. He doesn't look as cool. I mean, he looks just straight up like some kind of, I don't know, Korean pop star type outfit. I don't know. I don't know what they're going for here, but I mean, he does seem dangerous, I mean, he seems like he could be dangerous. And I mean, he becomes physically stronger the more amped up he is on the crowd's emotions. So he is dangerous. He does have some trouble fighting the showman. But there is an important scene here where, Derek's mom is trying to, kind of get inside Derek's head, because he bailed on the interview from the last issue because he was fighting Replicant. And, she's like, hey, tell me what's up. And he blows her off, and, she says, Derek says to her, you ruined my life when you took me to Gotham. And he instantly regrets it, but he has to deal with the showman thing, so it doesn't get back to it. So he leaves his mom in a bad place, which, as you know, I've been speculating from issue 1 that Derek hasn't had his Uncle Ben yet. So I'm really thinking it's really setting it up for his mother. They've spent so much time on their relationship. That the death flags for Derek's mom are just popping up like left and right. So Derek has a brief fight with the showman, and he gets some help from Ernie and Ernie's sister. So I haven't talked much about Ernie's sister. So Ernie's name is really like Ernestine, and her sister is like Emilian. And basically, Ernie does this really smart thing by like weaponizing her preppy sister's like bad attitude while protecting herself from the showman with the headphones. So again, strong dynamic between Ernie and Derek. They're like a team. if Peter had Ned as guy in the chair in Homecoming, Derek has Ernie as guy in chair. Ernie has been such, she's almost more heroic than Derek in some ways. In some instances, she definitely gets her time to shine in these books. Again, she's a great character. I like her a lot. She's a little bit designed, you like her because she's sort of a nerdy girl, but she is heroic. She is clever. Derek does need her. So her death flags are coming pretty fast and furious as well, but I'm really thinking the mom is going to turn out to be Derek's Uncle Ben. But I will skip a few pages. There's some reveals kind of towards the end that involve Derek's mother. She does survive this issue. I'll go ahead and spoil you on that, but she finds out a little more information about Dark Star Labs, or Black Star Labs, they might be, I believe is the name. But Derek ends up teleporting this guy just out into the middle of the desert just to get rid of him. He continues, to try and egg Derek on, but Derek's, already figured out his game thanks to Ernie, and he finally decks him. He says, you've said enough for one day. This was not it feels a little bit like a filler issue. I mean, it does build some of Derek's relationships. It does deal with him being conflicted. He was just about to hang up his tights, and now he feels like he has a greater responsibility. So some of this is coming into fruition, coming into its own. Book is, I like Sideways a lot. I've talked a lot about the New Age of Heroes books, and at the end of the day, Sideways is the clear winner for me. I would like to talk about the New Age of Heroes as a whole, and I might do that in another video, but we're running long. Thanks for sticking with me throughout this. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate your watching, your listening. Do hit the bell for notifications. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. I plan on uploading content regularly. I'm still trying to diversify the channel and do a few new things. I do want to talk about some old heroes. I have a Darkhawk special if you haven't seen that already and you enjoy the Darkhawk stuff, or if you just want to see me have a huge nostalgia trip while I flip through a comic I haven't opened in 20 years. Check out my Darkhawk special. So new content coming all the time. Let me know what you thought of these books in the comments below. I do read all the comments, guys. And thanks for riding on the Stellar Highway. I will see you next time.